What's up everyone, welcome back to the Driver Mod. My name's Anthony, and in today's video we're going to be doing an install on the GT350. Today's video we're going to be doing a mod on the GT350. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, you know, just circumstances and the time just hasn't worked out until now. So today we're going to be installing the carbon fiber QA1 drive shaft on the GT350. I've already weighed it. It weighs, with the hardware, we're looking at about 19.5 pounds. So once we get the stock drive shaft off, we'll go ahead and weigh that to see what kind of weight savings we're getting. The first step in this install is to remove the rear diffuser so you can get the exhaust off. We've already done that. So next we're gonna go ahead and get the middle to the muffler exhaust off in order to access the drive shaft.
So this install is gonna specifically apply to the ones that have more or less stock exhaust. We're stock from the headers all the way back to the mufflers. The only thing we've done is a Borla Attack axle back. So first thing, we're gonna take these 15mm bolts and release those. Now we can go ahead and slide these collars. Try and give us as much room as possible.
I'm going to race, sorry. I need to get a job.
I'm gonna pull the exhaust back to pull it out of those hangers. If you can't pull the exhaust back far enough to pull it out of those hangers, you can go ahead and release the 13mm bolt above, and then pull the exhaust back to release it from the hangers that the muffler are supported by. And then you can remove the entire catback system. All right, we've got the entire catback exhaust off. When you're doing this, if you have a lift or something like that, it's definitely gonna make this a ton easier. But if you are doing it on the ground on jack stands, we just showed you it can be done. You can do it by yourself. You might have to get a little creative. We lowered the front end onto our slide right here, and then pulled it out from the back. And then I just have the muffler sitting on some rags to, you know, try and keep them off the ground. But yeah, now we can go ahead and get to the main part of this job, and that's the drive shaft. All right, so for this part, we've got the 10mm bolts back here. There's 6 of them. And then you've got 4 12-point bolts up here that you need to release. And then the 13s that hold the center bearing. By installing the QA1 carbon drive shaft, you are also not only losing weight, but you're also going from a 2-piece drive shaft down to a single 1-piece, so we will no longer be needing this. But that comes off with the drive shaft. Another tip to releasing these bolts on the front and the rear of the drive shaft is to put the car in first gear and have the e-brake on. It will help with breaking these loose if you don't have anybody to stomp on the brake for you. So let's get started with removing the drive shaft. This is the original bolts and Loctite. All right, so we take our 10mm and back these off. If you're using an impact, you won't need to usually use the brake or e-brake in gear method. You can usually, the impact can usually overcome it. All right. Lastly, we need to release the center bearing. You'll need an extension and a 13mm socket. All right, so before you release this, just be careful, because once you do, the full weight of the drive shaft is going to be basically able to come down now. So you want to be able to release it, have a hand on the drive shaft, preferably probably the rear, because of this can be caught by the front end, can be caught by the mount if it comes down. So if you have one hand on the rear and release the mount, what you'll want to see on the rear is it can slide forward out of that cup. So you'll just slide it forward out of that cup and then slide the whole drive shaft back towards the rear to get it
out from the front. Just pull it back towards the rear. You might need to use a pry bar to wiggle it forward or aft, but now we've got our stock drive shaft out.
All right, one thing with the QA1 carbon drive shaft is the retainers for the connection from the rear of the drive shaft to the rear differential are weighted and color coded. So you'll note the orange, yellow, and purple. And then on the drive shaft, you'll see purple, yellow, and then orange on the other side. The front of the drive shaft, they supply new hardware as well. These are hex bolts. We did just get done weighing the drive shaft. So the stock drive shaft weighed in at about 30.5 pounds, whereas the QA1 with hardware was about 19.5. So we're losing about 11 pounds of rotating mass. So between the QA1 drive shaft and our Forge Line wheels, we have dropped roughly 65 pounds of rotating mass off the car just with those two modifications. So let's get this thing fitted and installed. So here's the confirmation. Here's the 12mm stock bolt for the front of the drive shaft to the transmission, and here is the QA1 bolt. As you can see, the depth, it's about a good ½ inch long or so. Definitely use the QA1 supplied hardware.
All right, guys, without a second hand, this is a little bit interesting to do, but as you can see, we have the drive shaft resting on one of our ramps. We used our creeper to slide it under. So now the reversal of the process when we took it out, slide it past the diff, and then slide the front up and in, and make sure you have the bolts in hand or easily accessible, because we're gonna have to start threading them by hand before we can, release our hand from the drive shaft. We are gonna use some Loctite when threading these in. So just get it positioned and lined up the best you can with one hand and thread in with the other. The drive shaft bolts at the front are a 10mm Allen. Run them in by hand. This is the type of install that when you're going together, I would try to use an impact as little as possible. Just run them in by hand as far as you can. Once you get all 4 of the transmission to drive shaft bolts in by hand, we're gonna wait till the end to fully tighten them. There is an adapter that goes onto the diff that allows the drive shaft basically to fill in the distance because the drive shaft's a good, 1.5 inches or so shorter. So we need to get that adapter. As you'll see, it is also color coded. So that all has to do with the weighting system that QA1 does before they release the drive shaft. So this is gonna mount to the diff, and then the drive shaft is gonna mount to this piece. So we'll get that installed now. Again, we're gonna use blue Loctite to zip it down and make sure it doesn't back out. All right, it's held on by about 6 8mm Allens. Just go ahead and line it up with the stock holes on the drive shaft or rear diff. Apply our blue Loctite. All right, so we ran them all in, got them positioned by hand as much as we could, and then stuck our ratchet on there and tightened them all down. Now we're gonna go around and torque them. In order to torque them, 2 things to note. 1, if you're doing this by yourself, you're gonna need to get out and rotate this, if you can't reach any of the Allens. Due to the angle or whatever, but you'll have, so you may have to set the e-brake and release the e-brake to rotate it. The second thing to note is the torque spec. These bolts are torqued 47 foot-pounds. The bolts at the rear of the drive shaft that bolt to the adapter, 47 foot-pounds. And then once we get everything all installed, torque these to 85 foot-pounds. So now let's get the rear of the drive shaft installed to the adapter. All right, so for the purposes of this one, it is easier to leave the transmission in neutral and the e-brake off because you may have to do some rotation on either end. All right, so go ahead and lift the rear of the drive shaft off, and you're gonna need to kind of compress and rotate the flexible CV joint there. Make sure your paint marks align with the proper color. Once you get one started, try and get it in as far as possible. It'll just help take the weight off of you having to support the drive shaft. All right, we've got them all started. Now we can tighten them down. All right, once we get these ran down, bottomed out, go ahead and torque them to 47 foot-pounds. So to do this, apply the e-brake, put the car in gear, do 2, and then release everything, rotate, do 2 more. We're not gonna show all that. It's gonna be very time consuming, but yeah, you're gonna make sure you tighten all those to 47 foot-pounds. Guys, we are all done with the install. Everything's torqued down, 47 foot-pounds, 47 foot-pounds. Alignment colors, I can't show the orange, it's in gear right now. But all that's all buttoned up, and then we've got the front tightened down to 85 foot-pounds. So we are good to go. Basically just reinstall the exhaust, rear diffuser, and that's it. We're not going to show all that for the simplicity of this install, but hope you found this helpful. Definitely leave some comments down below what you thought. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to this install. I know it was a little bit of a challenging one being on the jack stands, but we were able to get it done. So if we're able to get it done, that means all of you can get it done. You know, you don't need to pay somebody else to do it. It's very doable in the driveway. Maybe a helping hand might help, but definitely drop some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Like I said, we saved just about 11 pounds of rotating mass just by replacing that drive shaft. But do us a favor, like, share, comment, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss a future upload. We've got a GT350, we've got an S2000, and we do tons of automotive content, how-tos, DIYs, rallies, autocross, so you name it. We pretty much do it here on the channel. So we hope to see you back on the channel, and tune into our giveaway. We got our active 2,000 subscriber giveaway going. It's not over yet. There's still time to enter, so go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description below for that video so you can find out how you get entered. Anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one here at the Driver Mod. All right, guys, if you stayed in through the end, we're gonna give you a special treat. We have not put the car back together. We've still got the exhaust off. We're gonna get a nice cold start with the exhaust off.